Hey everybody, welcome back around to the Blog and Grill. I'm your host Doug here with your video blog for August 20th, 2014. Have a great blog once again planned for you tonight. We got 2 days with the Redskins and the Eagles as we wrap up the NFC East. We'll also have your New York sports update as Michael Pineda is back on the mound at Yankee Stadium tonight for the Yankees in his first start at the stadium since April. We'll also, Brett Gardner just made a nice diving catch. Also, we're going to talk Tiger Woods' future and what he said most recently. But first, let's get to the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback job, which was the most talked about starting quarterback job due to the fact that Johnny Manziel was a part of it. But Johnny Manziel has not won that job. Brian Hoyer was named the starter for the Cleveland Browns for opening weekend against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I believe this decision was really inevitable. It was going to happen. They were going to bring in Brian Hoyer to be the quarterback, and the question is just how long will this decision last? They go through a tough stretch. They have a bye in week 4. If they come out and they're 0-3 in their first 3 games, Johnny Manziel could be on his way in, but there's just 2 quarterbacks here that are not franchise quarterbacks, and that just shows you the dysfunction of the Cleveland Browns organization and the control that Mike Pettin needs to show within this organization, and they need to get a quarterback right at some point. Alright, time for our first NFL Two-A-Day, and we're going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles first. Last year, they were 10-6, one of the most efficient offenses in the National Football League, for sure. It's good. They played so well. Nick Foles was great, 27 touchdowns to 2 picks. LaShawn McCoy was his usual self as well. Draft, I'm going to give them a B. I think they got some good skill players, an underrated wide receiver out of Vanderbilt, but no great players. Key additions that they brought in: offensive lineman Jason Peters, safety Nate Allen to try to back up that secondary, and also they bring in backup quarterback Mark Sanchez. The key departures: they released Deshaun Jackson, they released Jason Avant, Jason Phillips leaves at the linebacker spot, and their backup quarterback last year, Michael Vick, also left. I think the big question is, can Chip Kelly replicate his offensive plan? I think he could struggle without having Jackson in there, without having the nice knowledge of offenses that Michael Vick has. And I think they're going to take, I don't know if necessarily they're going to take that much of a step back, but I think the division is better this year. I see the Eagles winning this division and finishing at 9-7. Tiger Woods talked about his future. He says he will sit out the remainder of the year. He said he's not going to be healthy for another 1 to 2 months. He will sit out the rest of the year, not play in the Ryder Cup. He took himself out of that consideration last week. But he will sit out the remainder of the year. And basically what I see in Tiger is that he needs to just take some time, try to get that back to heel and get healthy. Because this guy sitting at 14 majors is still under age 40 and can still make a run at the 18 majors of Jack Nicklaus. I don't know if he will. I think what he needs to do is he needs to work on his game over the off season, continue to work on his short game, because that's where he's going to have to pick up strokes and ultimately get ready and return in the Masters in 2015. All right, time for our second NFL Two-A-Day. It is the Washington Redskins, who last year were terrible. They finished 3-13. Robert Griffin III took a major step back. Alfred Morris was still good in their running game, and they were average on all other fronts. Draft, I'm going to give them a B+. I like what they went out and got some better offensive linemen to try to protect Robert Griffin III. I also like the nice running back they got in the 6th round, Lake Seastrunk, out of Baylor. Key additions, they bring in the wide receiver Deshaun Jackson, who's a big play threat. They also bring in head coach, former offensive coordinator of the Bengals, Jay Gruden. Defensively, they bring in defensive end Jason Hatcher to get after the quarterback, and the safety, former Pittsburgh Steeler, Ryan Clark. Key departures, they lose Santana Moss at the wide receiver spot and safety Tenard Jackson. And the big question for this team I see is that can Robert Griffin III have a comeback year and play a lot better than he did last year? I think he will play better. I think the division is pretty well even, and it's going to be a tough division to win games in. Ultimately, I think they will win 7 games, finish at 7-9 in last place in the NFC East. So basically how I see the NFC East shaping up, I got Philadelphia and New York both at 9-7. I think Philly will win the tiebreaker in that. Dallas at 8-8 in third, and Washington at 7-9. Time for your New York sports update today. Masahiro Tanaka feels fine after throwing a 35-pitch bullpen session. Last night the Yankees lost 7-4. David Robertson gave up the big 3-run home run to Chris Carter in the ninth. The Yankees are now 4 games back of the second wild card spot. Tonight, 7:05, Scott Feldman 6-9 with a 4.15, and Michael Pineda 2-2 with a 1.82. Mets last night lost 6-2 to Oakland, and tonight they were playing an afternoon game out west as they beat Oakland 8-5. And Little League World Series note for you tonight: Monet Davis, the female pitching phenom for Pennsylvania, will be on the mound in just under 15 minutes as she will face off against the big hitters of Nevada in a big-time game for Little Monet. She has been a lightning rod for the Little League World Series. This could be one of the highest-watched Little League games in the history of the World Series. All right, so tomorrow we're going to be back as we're going back-to-back. This week we're going to talk NASCAR at Bristol. We'll talk Hunt for October and two-a-days with the Cardinals and the 49ers. You remember, check me out on sportsmindednews.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at YankeeBaller415. Comment, question, subscribe to my page. Thanks for tuning in to the Blog and Grill. I'll be back tomorrow. Have a good rest of the night.